the lint roller.
Um, you use a lint roller?
Thanks, Todd.
Uh, Todd, it, ah,
It's
wow.
just this is what I do instead of exfoliating. Do you want some?
Um,
Fantasy art history with Avalon and Joe.
Hang out today, Joe.
Avalon, it's been a while, and today we're gonna jump right into the deep end of real fine art, the finest art.
We're gonna get to have a little fun along the way.
Yes,
Okay, awesome. What kind of
art
real
is,
fine art?
art is fun. It's always
Yeah,
fun.
but there's fun and fun.
Yeah, I know. Well, so the kind of fine art we're going to be talking about is the kind of fine
Oh, did
art.
you have fun watching Empire, the Andy Warhol movie that's 8 hours of looking at the Empire State Building? Was that fun for you?
No, I never saw that. I don't. Did you?
No, because it seemed like it would suck, so I didn't.
You
Sorry, that's my fine art
some
example.
are more of an idea, and
Yeah,
then you know about it, and that's good enough.
yeah.
People might say that you should watch it for the real experience, but those are people who have a lot of time.
Or like that fan fiction about the Pokemon Lucario that's 20,000 pages long. It's like the longest work of fiction ever.
Yeah, you can just know of that. You
Yeah.
don't have to read every page of it. And then you can imagine what it's like, and that's a fine way to experience it. Because some of us have to go to jobs and stuff.
Speaking of the world of imagination,
Yeah.
what we're talking about today is the role of a kind of particular set of ideas in artistic imagination, right?
Yeah, we've got sort of a grand theme here, which is to trace a style of painting and depicting a imaginary world
Yeah.
from the olden days of the sort of a sort of academic tradition of painting that started in France and kind of took over all of art production, respectable art production, for quite some time until basically until like the birth of Impressionism. And you might think, well, Impressionism, that's also kind of a boring fantasy style of art. But at the time, painting with big splotchy brushstrokes, it blew everyone's mind because what everyone was used to looking at was, I'm gonna go price the thing.
Thanks, Joe. Awesome
We're,
segue.
it was just like,
Just think, look at this.
look at this. Wait, there.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I don't see brushstrokes there. I just see perfectly worked surfaces
I see perfect men in perfect drapery.
with perfect calves.
They have perfect. Should I zoom in on the calf?
Yeah,
Should
if
we
you want
start?
to.
We said we were going to make this fun. So let's look at some. Do you guys want to see the greatest calf in art? Maybe? Maybe
Yeah.
not like the greatest ever.
I mean, they've got some stiff competition with Michelangelo's David,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's looking pretty
Let's
good.
get it.
Let's get in there though, because
Let's get in there a little bit farther.
they're pretty vascular actually. Yeah, there we go. Look at that.
Hell yeah.
Holy, makes you want to go for a jog right now, huh?
Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't get that by not trying. Either
Yeah.
the guy with the calf or the guy who painted it.
Makes me so uncomfortable to look at a barefoot. But those calves are amazing.
They put sandals on. Man, and look at how the
I have
his
a natural enmity for sandals.
oh, that's interesting, but
We
not
all,
surprising.
yeah.
I don't. This is an Abelard thing. Most people are fine with it. Is this a sock thing?
It's a sock thing.
Abelard.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a sock thing. It's
Yeah.
just, it makes me feel weird. Anyway,
That's fair. That's fine.
um,
We all have we all have some stuff like
little
that.
hangers.
Yeah. Okay.
Where'd the
Well,
image go?
well, you see,
Oh,
this is
you're,
very hard for me to do.
yeah,
Maybe if I got my whole head down here, I
yeah.
can do it quicker. Hang on. Sorry, I hope no one's getting dizzy or motion sickness or anything.
Yeah. Just focus on, go look over at me in the top left-hand corner because I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to narrate this. We've got a little resize going on. Okay,
Okay.
good.
We're professional.
All right. So what's this painting called?
This is called The Oath of the Horatii, and this is a painting by Jacques-Louis David,
Yeah.
a French guy. And this is, I
Is
think
David
you,
also the guy who in the dead guy in the bathtub?
Yes,
Okay.
that's his really good one, The
Yeah.
Death of Marat.
Death of
But
Marat.
he specialized in enormous paintings of Napoleon and paintings of history like this, which you were meant to read as actually being about France at the time.
What
I,
is this saying about France at the
well,
time?
I think that you, Abelard, most recently read the Wikipedia article about this, so why don't you tell us?
Well, yeah, it's about these three brothers. Those are the Horatii on the left, and they're taking an oath to defend Rome by doing one-on-one single combat with some other sort of anti-Roman aggressors. And two of the Horatii end up dying, but that's their dad giving them the swords to have their dangerous battle. And that I think is their sister. One of them is their sister on the right-hand side. She's sad about it.
Yeah, but
So,
that's
you could take it as an allegory to be like, in the grand tradition of art that is designed to hype you up about going to war to defend your country.
yep, yeah, you got to do it,
Now we just have crying bald eagles in our part of the country.
and they're not even painted this good.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's okay. This is all sort of art that gets posted by a guy on the internet who's got like a Greek sculpture head.
This is there. We're going to see a lot of Greek sculpture head art. Yeah,
Yeah,
very much so.
love this stuff.
Yeah,
It's realistic.
yeah.
It has a extremely clear on the surface storyline and message. The ladies are sad. The men want the swords because they're men.
They're tough and resolute.
They have beautiful muscles and everything's in its proper place.
Let's talk about the role of realism here because I think there's a very interesting realism going on.
Hmm.
If you look at all of the individual elements, they are painted very beautifully. So the anatomy is perfect and beautiful, and the skin has that quality that human skin has of being like translucent, luminous, opaque. The drapery is stunning and delineated by these sharp, defined shadows. The architecture in the background is like beautiful and atmospheric and textured. The shadows are, placed in a lovely way. There's a little bit of linear perspective on the floor, but there's something about it. It's as though the flesh is lit to look as good as flesh can look, and then separately the cloth is lit to look as good as cloth can look, and separately the architecture is lit. So you couldn't dress and pose people in a way that you could take a photo of this and have it look like this, right? There's an almost collagistic imposition of different kinds of elements.
Yeah, it's not photorealistic, but it's kind of hyper realistic.
Yeah,
It's more real than reality is. I think it's interesting to think about, like when most people think about like realism in art, they think about art from the Renaissance era. It's like when drapery is so beautiful and the figures are so real. But if you look closely at those paintings, I think the actual like on a brushstroke level, many of them, depending on who you're looking at, they're more freely painted than this is. You get
definitely.
right up close to these guys' calves, and you're not seeing gloppy brushstrokes. You're
Yeah.
seeing just the calf.
For those of us who don't paint a lot, how has that affected you?
In this case, it would be achieved by many, many, many layers of transparent paint. So when you're standing in front of a painting like this, you're often looking through the layers of oil paint through. So you're seeing not a surface, but you're seeing like almost as though you're looking into glass.
Yeah.
So this is really cool. This is what gives an oil painting its unique glowy sort of feel. Often a painting like this, sorry if this is getting too technical for you people, but here we are anyway. Do you see how if you look at the guy's red cape, how that red is weirdly flat, giving it that sort of collagistic
Yeah.
tone that you were saying?
Yeah.
One of the reasons you might be getting that is because this painting probably was done as a grisaille, which just means gray. And the way you do that is you paint the whole scene to total finish in blacks and whites. That's it, black grayscale,
Whoa. Okay.
like a black and white movie. And then you lay the color over the top of that as the final layer. And so your red cape is like just tones of the same red. You don't get other colors in there. And so it kind of flattens it out in this interesting way that looks a little unnatural and and it really works here. Like this is an otherworldly image uh, because of that, but it also is way less naturalistic than even like painters in the Renaissance would have done.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's the little art technique moment.
So that's talking about the way that individual surfaces are kind of rendered in paint. What about the composition?
Well, something that you will know if you have ever taken an art history survey is that this is the like top composed image that you get taught about at school. Everyone loves to draw little diagrams of this image where they're like, there's a triangle here, and over there there's another triangle, and then the ladies, they're also in a triangle. Everyone loves a triangle in a composition because it's stable yet strong like a pyramid or whatever. Uh, it is a good composition. I don't really think that like you can, if you sit down with like a ruler, you can connect every line in this to like eight other lines, and it's probably all in the like golden ratio or whatever. I don't know. It's very nice. But I think the thing that you were saying about it compositionally earlier is more interesting than just the diagrammatic like lines intersecting other lines to make triangles thing.
More than talking about the composition of a set of like positive and negative spaces and shapes, I think that this is composed as a essentially flat image similar to like actual ancient Greek, what is that called? Redware pottery or just a frieze,
Yeah.
right? This is how you would need to compose an image if you were carving it in shallow relief in a frieze. And in the ancient world, if you wanted to do something with more depth, you would make a sculpture in the round or you would make a building.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it's very flat. We're in a very, very shallow space.
right. And I think that is that's one thing that makes this so iconographic. It's one thing that gives it a sense of unreality. Like the three brothers are drawn were kind of laid out the way in medieval art of rows of horses. You just see like horse fronts sort of scalloped with one another. Here we've got kind of brothers, like kind of like outlines of brothers next to each other. Um, there is a little more sophisticated stuff going on with perspective, but for the most part, it's very, very flat.
Yep. I mean, it's a cool painting. I don't feel like inspired to go other, if you would you go into single combat to defend your country or whatever? Single combat seems kind of more ethical, I guess. But they'd have to promise to like, do whatever you want if you want.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was gonna
you'd
say.
be
What do
like,
you mean by defend my country?
yeah,
What part of it?
good question. Very good question. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all live in a world,
Yep,
is what I'll say.
we sure do.
We sure do. Should we look at a sort of a larger,
Yeah, hit me with one more.
let's look at something a little grander
Talk
than
about
this.
something else with an ideological project.
Hmm. What have we here?
Ooh.
Is this looks like the course of empire. This is what we're looking at right now is, um, this is a painting by Thomas Cole. And he's a member of the Hudson River School, so this was like later than the David painting. This is like I don't know, mid 1800s, early 1900s, or whatever. So these were these guys in America who were mostly painting these extremely romantic images of like the American sublime, like the West, but there's no people in it. It's just this huge empty landscape that's so glorious, and we're gonna go there sort of stuff. And but which is a whole like other subject matter.
Yeah,
This is his painting of how cities are bad and they get bad and then they go evil and then you have to, go back to the land of the innocent.
that's crazy because when I look at this, it looks awesome and nice.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Well, the problem is we're looking at one image out of a series, and in the series it starts with some guys in a grove, and then they start building Parthenons, and it's it's a little, and then they build too many Parthenons. There's
Yeah,
too many Parthenon stage, and look at, oof, they've got
yeah,
they really went to town with their columns and their
Yeah.
draperies, and the people are too small to really see what decadent hats they're getting up to. But let me assure you that it's probably extremely salacious.
You just know they're eating grapes off a table.
They're probably eating grapes off a lady down there.
Yikes! Wow.
Yeah. I think they really got up to some stuff.
Yeah, they're sailing on little pleasure boats.
Yeah. Anyway, the painting that follows this is this whole place like burning to the ground.
Yeah,
That's what you get.
which is like a classic hang up of people with this set of beliefs is that if things get too nice and we lose our warrior spirit, then civilization will collapse.
It's so funny.
It kind of makes it like you can see how it's intuitively sensible in a way, but uh, it is moronic.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So this is like related to the previous painting because I think it's about like this sort of imaginary ancient world, columns, draperies,
Yeah.
the glory of Rome, all of that. But being used as a allegory or a sort of like fantasy you can point at to talk about the modern world. And the thing that I think that is relevant for this painting as it applies to sort of just fantasy art generally, because I think that even though in the world of fantasy we've moved into this like more total fantasy where we're not just talking about ancient days, but we're talking about a completely made up world that still talks about our modern world. I think that's true. I think we're trying to talk about ourselves when we write a fantasy novel or
Well,
play a fantasy game.
what is this painting if not them talking about themselves?
Yeah, right.
They felt, I think, in a more linear way. Although, again, I think there's people who believe this in a very direct way, that they were inheriting this legacy of Greek and then Roman and then medieval European Christian culture. Um, and and this is them talking about themselves. And Horatia is them talking about themselves and their society.
As fantasy artists, we've this legacy of this style of painting is what we've inherited. And if you look at, and I'm gonna go get some right now,
Yeah,
modern fantasy artwork from our
mm,
modern fantasy game, you
yeah.
can see the direct sort of lineage here,
This looks
honestly.
like some fifth edition Wizards of the Coast shit. Is that what we're seeing here?
This is some not even this is what are they calling the new one? I don't remember. They think they changed the name a couple of times or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is the it's not sixth edition, don't worry, but also you need to buy five more books.
This is D&D Deluxe.
Yeah, this is our new thing, but it's the same.
Yeah.
This is some art for that. Which is I
That
think
sounded critical, but I actually, the more I look at this, the more I like it.
I don't know that I love this,
Yeah.
but it's not awful or anything. Like I here's one thing I think about this. I feel that like the really harsh difference in lighting between the foreground figures and the background scene.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was going to criticize it, I would say like, man, the figures in the front, they're so dark and kind of cold colored. They're so dulled out that it's kind of hurts to look at them. But I think that was a specific decision made by the artist because looking at the sort of size of this, the way it's really long, this is like a image that goes across a page and you put some more text on top of it. So exaggerating the contrast between the light and the dark, it lets you put like a bunch of text over the dark area in a light color, and then the text is
Yeah.
still legible and it's not, you don't have to see all of that stuff, but it's there.
Yeah. It's a
So
fairly thankless thing to have to paint. And I think that this person put it themselves. And even if you look at it by yourself, I agree that the contrast is pretty wild. But there are parts of it that I really like. For instance, I think the really key difference to me between this and the image we just looked at is that this is have a cinematic perspective, right? Where now we've kind of internalized the idea that art can reflect a specific viewpoint in space. And so like a kind of a personal viewpoint where you're in some kind of amphitheater, you're looking down, but you're in like the awning. So this is all shadow. You're close up with these people, and then there's stuff in the distance,
mhm.
right? So there's extreme foreground, extreme background because it's more like the view of a camera. And there's also a little bit of acknowledging the viewer. There are figures turned toward you. There is a little baby in the front. If you look carefully, bottom left hand, there's a little baby staring at you, which I think is hilarious. It looks like a little Botero.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah,
I think there should be more babies in fantasy arcs. I think it's
yeah,
funny.
it is naturally funny.
It's really
'Cause
funny.
what are you doing here, baby? You don't have any class levels.
You can't
You
be
don't have
intelligence.
attacks.
You can't hold a sword.
Yeah,
You're just a
go
baby.
home, baby.
There you go. Man, I never. It surprises me that in any of our games we never adopted an actual baby. Probably for the
Yeah,
best.
probably for the best. I wouldn't know the first thing.
Uh,
But like in terms of similarities, this is also an environment that's completely made out of different kinds of Parthenons of Colosseums and shit like that.
yeah, they're just building. They've even
Yeah,
got a wrecked one in the
yeah,
background, which, well, I know that that happens in. I feel like so. I feel like in modern cities, part of the idea of the city is you might have a like historic building that's partially wrecked. But
yeah.
I feel like in actual cities of a time such as what we're looking at here, you would tear that down. You'd build something up. You'd fix it up or something, right?
I think what's puzzling is that it's in the same art style as everything else, it seems like to me.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. There's the story of like the Roman causeways in England after the fall of the Roman Empire in the West.
Hmm.
Like nobody really knew what they were or what was going on with them because there was no longer the technology to reproduce things like that, to do work at that scale. And those stayed up. But I really don't know. That's a very good question.
And maybe that dragon just knocked it down just now. Maybe that's what's falling from the sky. He's just like, oops.
No, they're throwing confetti.
They're so happy to meet the dragon.
Here's what I think.
Maybe actually it's the mayor.
I think the dragon is the mayor because they built a special dragon podium for him or
Oh
her
yeah.
to sit on and deliver an idea of rhetoric, and then everyone's cheering.
A bunch of people right now who are like, you idiots. Of course that's the mayor. That's Mayor Vercingetorix the
Yeah,
fifth, and they re-elect him every year. He's great at it.
yeah. And then there are other people who are like, don't listen to the first people. Vercingetorix is a terrible mayor. The parking fines under Vercingetorix are an absolute joke.
He doesn't
We used to
understand
build
because he can fly.
we used to build a proper Parthenon in this country. Now
He's
all the
out of
Parthenons suck.
he doesn't even live here. He commutes
Yeah, he commutes in from
from his
heaven.
horde.
Yeah. All right. When it comes to Mayor Vercingetorix, though, I love the way that this is painted. D&D has this convention of color-coded dragons, and all the good guy dragons, stupid idea. A whole race of good guy dragons. Don't do that. Um, all the good guy dragons are metallic, and all the bad guy ones are colorful. And so this is, I think, probably like a silver dragon.
Yeah,
And but they're never painted so that they look like they're actually made of a reflective metal. You said he was like kind of made out of cloud gate material.
yeah,
That's the bean in Chicago.
yeah.
Um, and it is like all of the color on the mayor's body is reflecting the surroundings, right? It's blue on top from the sky. It's orange on top from the crowd and the stone. And if you look very closely at his like neck and front, you can even see like a lot of little dots, like they're picking up individual faces in the crowd.
Hmm. Um, yeah, it's nicely done. It's so I think the thing that I think the sort of grandiosity, the sort of overblown hugeness of this is what really strikes me as owing a lot to this artwork from the past.
Yeah,
Also, that, for one thing, the sense of scale. Stuff is as big as it can be. It's going back as far back as it can go. The crowd is huge. The buildings are huge. There's not, this doesn't, it looks unreal. And the other thing I would say is that the sort of like the treatment of the surfaces and the fabrics and stuff, it has, like the David painting, it's not, how do I want to say this? It's kind of, um, There's
Here's my pitch.
okay, make your pitch because I think it's
Totally,
similar.
totally evenly applied, same at all levels, undiscriminating clarity applied to every surface.
Yep, that's basically it.
Yeah,
There's something I like mechanical is too harsh of a word, but I think there is something mechanical about it. Like
yeah,
there's not there and maybe that has something to do with this needing to present some sort of reality or like realism that you can depend on. There's
yeah.
not a lot of or like the stylization is totally applied across the board in a very, very consistent way.
I think that there's something about um as more my, my internal analysis of this is as more money becomes available, like more capital becomes available for producing this kind of fantasy material. So not just the D&D stuff around the like late 90s, but also like the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies, right? Expensive, very polished looking movies. And the shift between the kind of silly cartoonish um figurative magic card art into the modern kind of often boilerplate templated but very cleanly illustrated magic card art. I think if this stuff is tending toward a single point of painting with these kinds of neoclassical goals, the objective is to present clarity. So we need to be able to see what is being shown us in a way that doesn't seem that seems sort of objective in a way, like we're getting some
Mhm.
kind of like unbiased God's eye view of events, but also um, legitimacy, right? The quality of the painting transmits that this is legitimate, serious, authoritative work.
Absolutely. That is so, and this is what happened with, like, we've been looking at some of the, like, the really great examples of this style of, orderly academic painting, like the Oath of the Horatia, great painting. But there are 300 million
Yeah.
paintings in that style, many of which are just as, kind of like accurately, carefully painted, that are boring as hell. And
If
people
you're
were very bored of them.
If you're wondering where artists like Monet, Manet, Toulouse-Lautrec, people like that came from, you
Because
have
they
to
were
look at
sick,
200 paintings in a row of like a
they were sick of
chicken
that
drapery
stuff.
holding a bunch of grapes out to the spirit of prosperity or whatever. Just little cupids floating around.
Like a lady in a harem who's
Yeah,
not got any clothes on. They were so sick of
totally
that.
fatuous art executed at the highest level.
So when they came out with their, paintings with visible brushstrokes and stuff,
Yeah.
or paintings of like real people that they saw in Paris, everyone was like, "What is this? These can
Finally,
these
it's not a cupid or
did a 3-year-old paint
it's
this?
not the spirit, it's not Mercury, it's actually like something that's relevant to ordinary life.
This is terrible."
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I'm hoping is that this 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 style of D&D art, which people are laboring away at and have been doing so for quite some time, like
Yeah.
it's a shakeup. And I believe a lot of people working in indie games and stuff, they're doing that.
Yeah.
But
I do again, and like the other art that we've looked at, this kind of like high finished traditional pictorial value stuff has its high points. I love this painting.
yeah, should we look at a real like a legit like super super high point now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm gonna go get it. Do, do, do.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I was talking about magic cards earlier. This is the art for the magic card Storm the Sea core by Jason Rainbow.
I think I would vote for this being the best Magic card art ever. I think you would disagree with me, but this is just so amazing.
To me, it's in the running. Joe hasn't seen as many magic cards as I have.
I haven't seen as many Magic cards, but I don't know. Just look at this. This is a sick painting.
Yeah.
So this is by Jason Rainville.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yes. And this is from just a little while ago. Some background information about this is that He posted a long thread on Twitter that's actually really interesting about his process for working on this. He got paid like $1,000 to paint this,
Yeah,
which is not a lot of money. Considering the level of finish that this has been taken to, this is a digital painting, which you can digitally paint something faster than you can paint something with physical paints because you don't have to wait for stuff to dry. But you still have to sit there with
yeah,
your like drawing tablet and make all the little moves. Like it doesn't
yeah,
happen automatically. And so he like in his thread about this talked about how he wanted to do this really good because he felt like he was at a stage of his art making where he could really like bring it for this painting and he was inspired and you know if you're an artist you just want to do your best work, you want to get
yeah,
better. This is what it's like, what's exciting about making art. And so he just like crunched for like 2 weeks to do this
yeah,
for a absolute pittance. And he like wrote,
yeah,
you know, he feels bad about it because no one should get paid that little to do work this good, but at the same time, you want to do the good work. Anyway,
yeah,
people should pay more money for art. And when I'm emperor, that's going to be my first, one of my first
yeah.
rules. Everyone will have enough money. That's my new law.
Wow.
Joe's law number three. No, after no advertising and I can't remember. I think I had another
Was it
one.
just be nice to me, or was it something more sweeping?
It might have just been be nice to me. Oh, wizards can't have beams anymore. That was law number
Oh yeah,
two.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
limited application, but I think it's still important. And yeah, and the last one is everyone's getting enough money. And especially this guy, because he should have gotten. Look at this. It's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think in terms of the lineage of the different viewpoints on neoclassical art that we've seen so far, which I think the parallels are pretty obvious here. But this is more of the Horatio style. This is more like a frieze where all the figures are collapsed in space. Um, and there's so much to love here. There are other pieces of neoclassical detail, I think, such as
Mhm.
the role of the drapery and the composition, the way that the figure on the far right, the human with the white hair, has this kind of deliberately posed attitude. And really all the figures, but I think it's more obvious on the ones that look more like people because I don't know when an elephant looks like it's posing for a picture. But the two women on the left are like this attitude of care. I think that's really impressive. Like if you look closely where the woman's hand grips under the arm, you can see her fingers like pressing into the flesh. It's an image with plenty of silliness, right? They have like laser swords and gold armor, and there's some goblins running around providing negative space. There's a little fox man.
It's a big elephant.
Yeah,
And this is some of the most beautifully painted dumb stuff.
yeah,
I believe that these guys are doing a truly heroic thing.
yeah.
They like, and it's wild because I'm sure the like brief for this magic card was, you know, like it's not like this is an illustration of an epic story. This is just like
This is an illustration of an epic
oh,
story.
is
I have
it?
to tell you, yeah.
Oh, okay. So what does this card do?
Distribute 4+1/+1 counters among creatures you control. They gain vigilance and trample until end of turn, I think.
Is it a good card?
You wouldn't play it probably. You might play it in limited.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
okay though.
this
That's all right.
you know, like a couple hundred years ago, this guy would have been painting like the inside of a church, you
Yeah,
know? Either that or like, you know, dying of smallpox, one or the other.
yeah. And now he gets to paint like a kind of draft chaff uncommon.
Yeah. But that's also
It's fine. I mean, we're talking about it. I think this is beautiful.
I do think that this is a legit use of I think illustrative I mean it's naturally I would, but I think illustrative work is like a beautiful thing to do. I love narrative. I love the way that this card all by itself conveys a really exciting narrative. And yeah, I think it's I don't know. It's
Yeah.
really good. That draper, the composition, like making, knowing that this is going to be printed at about like 2 inches by 1 inch big and still going this far is, it's really something.
I think that this style of art intrinsically carries an ideological load, going back to the very first one we saw.
Hmm.
Um, and here, to me, it's being used only to create a sense of solemnity.
Oh, interesting. It
Like,
is very solemn, isn't it?
it makes you feel like what's going on is important more than anything else.
No one is making a like real like open mouth angry face. I
No, they're
think that's part of it.
determined.
Yeah,
And
they're
the woman looks on the far left looks like compassionate but determined.
yeah. I guess that one little goblin is kind of shouting.
Well, the goblins are the bad guys.
I
But
know.
the little
That's what
fox man,
this man.
yeah.
Oh, he's got kind of like a shark teeth face thing going on there. It's wild. Wow.
Anyway,
Anyway, very solemn. You know, it's not as solemn as this.
yeah,
I have a little treat for you guys. The artist also posted this on Twitter. It's incredible. Check
yeah,
this out. This is his reference photo
yeah,
that he made to paint this.
yeah.
Look at that. It's incredible.
So if if you're watching this on your phone, it's pretty small. It's just collages of himself photographed in different attitudes over and over and over, and then all the figures chopped together.
Yeah, it's so good. Some
And
of the he's got a broom, and
yeah,
and probably every other artist who's working on illustrations, I do have a phone full of photographs of me or apartment mates holding our broom, sometimes broom and mop. Sometimes they're standing on a couch or laying on the floor.
he's determined.
Yeah, you just end up with a lot of these. But I've never taken the extra step of making a collage such as this.
Yeah,
Great, great one.
I love it.
So
I
good.
love that. I love that he has many tiny selves in sort of attitudes, and then he has a big self.
For the
There's a
elephant.
big Jason in that. It's, yeah,
So
it's
good.
amazing.
Anyway, this is how it is when
Yeah,
this is how you do it.
that's where the magic happens.
Yep. Um, yeah, this is like, compositionally like this sort of, again, we've got a big triangle here, but
Yeah,
it's a triangle that instead of standing solemnly up, it's thrusting over to one
yeah.
side. Everyone's heading over that way. Uh, so you have this like really like clear line of force leading you to that side of the painting, but as you get towards that side of the painting, you start running into the dark goblins that everyone's fighting, and they're all pressing the other way. So it's, it's a really simple, powerful idea.
And if you want to fill it in with the Horatio, you can see just the bare suggestion of a series of arches in the background.
Yep. Yeah. And this is, this is I feel like this painting is really pretty fine accomplishment and a worthy successor to that style of artwork.
Yeah.
This is where it's happening out there nowadays. On a magic card, a not very good magic card.
Yep.
What's the best magic card, Abelard?
It depends extraordinarily much on the context, but the standard answer is either Black Lotus or Time Walk.
Do they have good art on them?
Uh, they're fine, but don't stand out to me.
Yeah, that's just how it is, I
What's the
guess.
best magic card with good art would be a good question. I do like the Oko Thief of Crowns art because he looks so sexy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a whole magic episode sometime soon for sure. Because
Magic's hottest boys.
Magic's hottest boys. Wow. Magic's hottest elephant, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll really get a lot
Well,
of
stay
viewers
tuned,
for that.
listeners. Might want to watch that one by yourselves.
I bet there's a lot of people who just like are like, I need to take in some more Magic the Gathering content, and then they'll find it and they'll tell all of
Yeah.
our friends, and then they'll be like, wow, these socks don't know very much about Magic, do
Yeah.
they? Yep.
Abelard is way off base. Storm the Seed Court went off in standard.
Oh wow.
That's fine. That's the pre. You know what? I never claimed to be an expert. It's just me, Abelard, and you, Joe.
Yeah. I'm an expert, but not in this stuff. I'm an expert in like procrastinating about sending emails. I'm
Yeah.
proud about that. I'm an expert in you know, taking naps. Oh my gosh, I'm so good at taking naps.
And I think this show came off pretty well, and if that's an expertise, what is?
We're getting so expert level
Yeah.
at doing this. Yeah. Well, thanks for spending a little bit of time with me, Joe.
And me, Abelard,
And until next time.
keep on dreaming.